Fuming.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Welcome to Onboard for Delivery.
I've been watching a sugar load of Whose Line Is It Anyway on YouTube, and I watched an interview today with Colin Mockery and Brad Sherwood from Whose Line, arguably two of the best people on the show, and they were talking about how in real life they're actually quite shy. They're not as outspoken and as crazy as you see on the show. And Brad Sherwood said that the more places he has an outlet for that behavior, the more he becomes shy in his real life because he has an outlet to release it. And it sort of reminded me a little bit of these podcasts where you get on camera and you start to release, parts of you that are there, but you might not always have in the rest of your, daily life. But fun fact, Tim, out of all the people on Whose Line Is It Anyway, out of all the seasons, and we know that the points add up, but the points don't matter. Who do you think's got the most points out of every single episode and every single show ever produced?
This is fair income? Like they've actually calculated the points?
Yeah.
It's not just made up?
No, fair income, yeah. Obviously they don't matter, but there is... I'm
going to say Colin Mockery.
Yeah. No, so Colin has the least amount of anyone out of the whole show.
He's been on the most number of episodes.
Number one, Wayne Brady.
Oh,
He came to Australia recently, did a comedy show on, I think it was like 18 billion points, and Ryan Stiles was next on 11, and Colin had about 8. So, yeah, that surprised me too.
Well, Wayne Brady, so no spoilers, but...
Wayne Brady,
of course, yeah. He was in the American one of the American seasons of The Masked Singer.
And he's a great singer too.
He is. Well, he came out as a fox, and the judges were like, "Oh, it's got to be Jamie Foxx," and he even sang a Jamie Foxx song. And they're like, "Would Jamie Foxx really go on the voice on the Masked Singer, dress up as a fox, and then sing one of his own songs?" And they're like, oh, would he do that? But it turned out to be Wayne Brady.
Wayne Brady, yeah. Wayne Brady's one of those guys that he's funny, he's good looking, he's talented. He can, those people just a little bit like you, Tim, but he can sing. But
and he's good looking and intelligent.
I was just thinking out loud. But I remember episode one of the episodes you mentioned to me about your favorite TV show was what's your favorite TV show, Tim?
Top Gear.
I want to know how you would compare Top Gear, your favorite TV show, with your other favorite TV show, Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Can you compare them, or you can't compare them? They're just completely different.
I guess they both center around middle-aged men doing dumb stuff, basically. Basically the premise for this podcast. But it's a pull. So Top Gear was a great show, but I've got a problem with the immaturity level. These guys, they're 3 grown men. They were in their 40s or 50s or so, grown men, and the maturity level was atrocious. So we're trying to set a standard on this podcast, and we did find we had a few people write in saying that last week's episode was a bit what was the word? A bit immature,
disjointed. We didn't prepare well. Our notes weren't that great.
Yeah,
you've got some notes there though.
Yeah, the notes weren't great, and it was also very immature. So today we have taken the feedback. So we are listening. So everyone, we are listening to your feedback. Thank you for thumbing us, which we forgot to mention last week. So there's been lots of thumbs below, and we are loving it. We are loving the thumbs, and thank you for all the feedback. And today's episode is going to be a one-off, mature episode. We've actually planned our notes. So I've got a few notes here. So I'm going to try to make sure we stick to the script this episode.
Tim, there's a dick and balls on the back of the... Tim, there's a dick and balls on the back of the paper.
What are you talking about?
In your hand.
Anyway, Paul, according to this, by the way, we also had somebody write in who's an avid listener, an avid watcher of the show. His name's TJ. We don't give away any names, but they're his initials. Happen to be the same initials as me, Timothy J. Jeffrey. And he complained, he wrote to YouTube and put in a complaint about the episode because, well, let's roll the tape. Whenever I see someone with a toothpick, you know who I think of? Razor Ramon. So if you get that reference, do you remember the Razor Ramon Shawn Michaels ladder match? WrestleMania, or which one was it? It was at one of the WrestleManias. If you know, thumbs down below and give us a comment. Which WrestleMania was Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels? Okay, so he complained that I pronounced the wrestler from the 1980s as Razor Ramon, where it turns out, thanks to TJ, that his name is Razor Ramon. So we just want to make sure that's all fixed up for this week. So Razor Ramon is the wrestler that used to have the toothpick and had the ladder match with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 10. So thank you also, TJ, for writing in, letting us know which WrestleMania. So this is once again our tech podcast. We're on YouTube, Spotify, and all popular podcast networks.
Well, speaking of tech, Tim, I would like to know, what do you think hackers do on a boat?
What do hackers do on a boat? So let me think. So hackers would do something. They would be breaking in. They'd be coding. They
go fishing.
They're fishing. I would have got there eventually, I reckon. That's no, good one. Good one.
Thanks, Tim.
Good one, Paul. So I'm just going back to these notes. So we've covered Razor Ramon. What else do we have on the notes? We've got Ninja. What's that? Ninja Warrior. What's that? Phil. Bad time. What does that mean? I don't even know what these notes mean. I'm just going to get rid of them.
Tim, do you remember growing up with our parents, and if we go for like a road trip to Queensland or whatever it might be, and you and I were mucking around in the back, just touching each other, or just if you know what I mean, just annoying each other, putting our knee close to the other one, and Dad would get frustrated and he'd do like the reach around to try and smack us while he's driving.
I do remember that. So they would say, "Don't touch your brother." So of course, you had nothing. There was nothing else to do but touch one another. And so what we used to do is like, you'd put your finger about this close to the other person, just hold it there.
I'm not touching you.
I'm not touching. Be like, "Dad, Mum." It would be annoying. And then Dad. So anyway, after a while, after this infuriating stuff going on in the back seat. Dad, he's losing the plot. He's driving with two hands like this. He's like, left hand. He's like trying to smack us with one hand while he's driving with the other hand. The car's swerving, but he's just like just random smacks. Like, doesn't even know who he's hitting. So obviously in this day and age, you can't get away with that, unfortunately.
Well, I still do the reach around with my kids, if you know what I mean. But usually, this is what I call it. I'm not sure if have you ever heard of the dad tax?
The dad tax? No, I haven't.
Yeah. So you know how taxes work. When you go to work, you earn money, then you have to give some to the government. And the more you earn, the more you have to give them. That's what a tax is. I have a thing called the dad tax. So if my kids get something, whether it's a lolly bag at a party or any kind of special surprise, I basically tax some of that for free. So if they've sitting in the back seat and they've got a packet of chips or a packet of lollies, or they've got, whatever it might be, I do the whole, the reach around. But instead of smacking them, it's to get free food. I call that the dad tax.
Well, that reminds me, when I was a kid, so I went to a different school. My dad was a teacher, and I used to go to a different school, but whenever I had a curriculum day, I'd have to go to Dad's school for the day. So it was, but it wasn't all bad. So I'd sit in the classroom and watch Dad do his teaching, and it was good fun. And what Dad used to do, there used to be one kid in the class who would bring a bag of chips. He used to bring a bag of chips and start eating them in class, which, you shouldn't really do. And so Dad would walk around, and he was a big, intimidating man, and he would walk around to the kid. He'd pick up the bag of chips, and then he would just eat them. He would just eat the chips. "Oh, thanks for that." He'd just take a few chips. So this kid got smart. So the kid would... Next time, Dad came around, he would like...
Squeeze.
It looks like I'm scratching someone's nuts. But what he would do, he would basically turn the chips into a powder. So the dad would go around and put his hand in the pack and just ends up with a bit of powder. So, you know, you can't say that the kids of today or kids of then are not learning. So if that kid, whoever that is, if you remember that and you're listening to this podcast by chance, one of our 19 viewers, Paul, we've got 19 viewers, would you believe? Please write in and give us the thumb, and it'll be good to hear from you.
It sounds like something Phil would do. But moving on, the other day, one of my kids was doing maths at school, and he had a Sudoku challenge. I'm not sure if you've ever done Sudoku, Tim.
I haven't done Sudoku, but I've done lots of debates about maths.
Yeah, sure. And he gave me this 9x9 very hard Sudoku for his school, and he left the room, and I did it in about, I don't know, it took me about 30 seconds to complete it in full, and he was amazed. He was like, "How did you do that? You must have looked it up." But I just explained to him, look, when I grew up, I didn't have iPads to sit in the toilet and play with. This is what I was doing growing up. If I wasn't reading the back of the shampoo conditioner bottle, I was doing Sudoku. That's how I became good at it. And he was like, "Oh, I want to get you and mum to do a Sudoku challenge. You know, get both of you and see who can do it quicker." But I hope that doesn't happen, because I did actually look it up and I've got no idea how to do Sudoku. So let's hope he doesn't listen to the podcast. But I don't know. I did want to touch on one thing. I mentioned a few episodes ago about chocolate, and I want to just re-jog your memory. And when was the last time, Tim, you had a crunchy or a violet crumble?
A crunchy or a violet crumble? Oh, we're talking days. We're not talking weeks or months or
really?
years. We're talking days.
Which one was it?
I think last week. So Father's Day, I did get one of those big multi-packs of, and it had Crunchies in it. So those mini Crunchies. So probably whenever Father's Day was, about a week or so ago.
So you notice Crunchies and violet crumbles, they're very similar. They're honeycomb covered in chocolate.
Yep.
But you'll notice, if you a connoisseur like me, you'll notice that Crunchies are actually a little bit more chewier inside, and a little bit more softer in the crunchy, the honeycomb, whereas violet crumbles are a bit more stiff, if you know what I mean, and they're a bit harder. And for those of you wondering why this is, it's because violet crumble have gone the cheap way and covered their crumble in compound chocolate. The thing with compound chocolate is it doesn't really let any air through. There's no airflow through compound chocolate because it's made from garbage, so that air can't get through, which keeps the violet crumble a lot harder. Whereas with Crunchy, who use milk chocolate to cover their honeycomb, it does let a little bit of airflow through, which actually softens the honeycomb, makes it a bit more chewier, which is what I prefer. But these businesses, companies using compound chocolate, they're trying to fool us, into thinking we're eating real chocolate. I mean, come on, lift your game. We're not stupid. I was fuming when I found that out. Lift your head. Get with the times.
I think Paul's pissed. So, Paul, just on that topic, though, do you... I don't know if anyone else does this, but do you eat, like when it's like a Mars bar or a Crunchy or a Violet Crumble, do we eat the chocolate first and then, like, suck on the insides? Do you do that?
I don't eat... Okay, so if I buy a Kit Kat and there's 4 rows of chocolate, I'm biting it just like a... You know, I'm not breaking it off, I'm just biting it. But yeah, with a Mars bar, I basically put the whole thing in my mouth and just bite it off with my teeth.
Okay, I could keep going on with this, but this is a tech podcast, and I don't think we've said anything technology related. So we need to think of something technology related, Paul. What?
Well, look, okay. So actually, early in the week, Rode, an Australian company, got wind of the podcast and actually sent me a new shock mount to try out with the microphone. So if you haven't noticed, people watching the podcast would notice, but maybe you haven't. I'm actually using a different mount for the microphone. Did you notice that one?
I did notice this sort of like stiffer thing in front of your face. I was wondering what that was. So
it's SMR Shock Mount, and it's pretty much the same sort of thing as what I was using, but it's got, instead of having like a pantyhose type pop filter, it's made from steel, and it's got a slightly different design. I'm not too sure how it sounds just yet. I haven't had a chance to test it out, but You asked for tech related, and that's tech related.
Yeah. So that sounds like it's a man's pop filter. You know, none of this pantyhose thing. Like, you know, pantyhose belong
this is
on
steel.
Pantyhose belong in my cupboard. They don't belong on a microphone. So,
and speaking of mans, Tim, have you noticed that when men are talking about the size of things, they talk about it in inches? And I would have thought that if you're going to describe something such as that, wouldn't you talk about it in something that sounds much more manly? So would you rather, man, I've got 8 inches, or would you rather 16 centimeters?
yeah.
Isn't that better?
It is. Well, they do say that men always overestimate. So whenever, you know, everyone's got a number, okay?
Yeah.
You've got a number, I've got a number. Every man
12.
has got a number. Maybe not Phil, but every other man, no, I was kidding. But every man has got a number, okay? Now, men like to brag about their number, but women don't like to brag about the number. So apparently men, whatever the number is that a man says, you third it, okay? And that's the real number. And with a woman, whatever the number she says, you triple it. So fun fact. So I'm glad you tuning into the Tech Podcast for all the news, reviews, tech reviews, and debates on Spotify, YouTube, and all other popular podcast networks. Now, Paul, who's that? Was that?
Hold on. Yeah.
I thought you told the kids to stay in bed.
No. That is actually. I was wondering when he was going to join us. That's Guido.
Guido?
Do you remember Guido from a few podcasts ago?
Who's Guido?
He's my Greek cousin that lives with us at the moment through COVID and lockdown. But he's actually just decided to join us. If you want, I've got to duck out for a few minutes. I'm happy to bring him in and have a bit of a chat if you like. You can interview him about whatever you like.
Okay, sounds good. I'll entertain while you're gone.
Yeah,
I'll talk about lady boners and in fact, I'm going to talk about some technology while Paul's going off to get Uncle Guido. So let's get serious, folks. So during the week, I've been looking at a 4K editing machine, and I've been talking with my friend Phil, who's been advising me on different hardware to buy. So 4K editing machines, you need to. The number one most important thing is a CPU, and if you're playing a game, the GPU, the graphic unit processing unit, the graphics card. That's usually the most important thing for gamers. But for video editors, most of the programs like Premiere Pro actually utilize more of the CPU. So you really need to spend more money on the CPU. So we've been looking at potential CPU options. We've got the Ryzen 3900X. There's also the Intel 10900K, but it's a little bit more expensive and it's only marginally faster. So looking at that and looking at some fast RAM and also SSD drives. So there's a bit of tech information, but let's get back to more important topics. I see that Uncle Guido has joined us. So Paul is taking a break. And welcome, Uncle Guido. I haven't seen you for a couple of episodes. You've grown your hair. What's going on there?
Mate. Yeah, mate. The girls get the girls, mate.
How long have you been in lockdown? When was the last time you had a haircut?
Yeah, mate, the last time I had a haircut, mate, are you talking about the hair on my chest, mate? Mate, or the hair on my head? Mate, I shave the hair on my chest daily, mate. The women, they go nuts for a smooth chest, mate. But the hair on my head, mate, I have not done that for months, mate.
Yeah.
But how you's going? How you's going?
Yous. I'm going pretty well. I was doing a podcast with Paul, and we're getting to really technical specifications on today's episode. Unlike other episodes that are non-tech related, this is an extremely tech related episode. So what do you know about technology?
Yeah, mate, do not talk over me, mate. But let me tell you, what has he done here? I got to wear sunglasses, mate, in the room. We're supposed to be nighttime, trying to sleep, and he's got the lights on in every direction, mate. Mate, normally, I love getting on camera, let's be honest, and I love the lights on me, mate. But the women, mate, I need to tone them down, mate. Mate, I've got to have a personal cleaner follow me around, mate, to wash up after the women, mate. They see me, mate, you talk about a lady semi, mate. Mate, let me tell you, okay, you listening? Are you listening? Let me tell you, my women, they drop clag, mate.
They drop what?
They drop clag.
Clag.
Mate, they're all over the floor, mate. I've got to get the bucket, mate, and wash it up.
Clag.
Yeah, mate. Mate, do not laugh, my friend. Mate, what you laughing at, mate?
Mate. When I spoke to you last,
Yeah.
we were talking about your bachelor lifestyle. And I haven't seen The Bachelor this week. I don't know if you watch The Bachelor, but
Mate, every day is a bachelor in my house.
yeah. So who's the lady or ladies in your life at the moment?
Mate, mate, where do I start, mate? Mate, I've got obviously myself, Guido. Mate, number one priority, mate, is me. Okay, mate. Then we've got Guido S, mate, which is the other person that I like, mate. But I'll tell you what, I got two ladies in my life. I got my lady one, my lady two. You know what I mean? Mwah. Mate, they're women in my life, mate. They never give me trouble.
Okay, so now once again, we've covered ladies. It's obviously you're a ladies' man.
Yeah, mate.
So this is
The
a
girls,
technology
mate, they get the
podcast.
girls.
So what do you think about Nvidia?
Well, mate, Nvidia, mate, I'll tell you what I love about Nvidia. Mate, they make my curls look better. Mate, they look really good. But I'll tell you one thing about Nvidia, mate, or Nvidia. I don't know how bullshit you say it, mate. I do not care, mate. But let me tell you, any company, mate, who believes they can bring out a newer model, mate, I'm the only model. You know what I'm saying? Mate, they bring out this thing, they call it a new model. Mate, there's only one model, mate, and it's me, the Guido, mate. Mate, that's what I think about them.
I think you'll find there's actually two models. There's another model. His name is Rick the Model Martel. And for those wrestling fans out there, you'll know that he was around in the 1980s in the WWF, now known as the WWE. Do you get into wrestling, or you're more of a... Yeah, when it comes to fighting styles, what is your favourite of the fighting?
Yeah, mate, speaking of wrestling, mate, are you sure you pronounce that correctly? I've listened to your other podcast, mate, you do not say things the way they're supposed to be said. So before we go any further, are you sure that is how you say it?
Rick the Model Martel. I'm pretty sure on that one.
Sure, mate.
And,
Well, we'll wait to hear from TJ during the week to find out if that's correct. But mate, I love that, mate, the Turkish kind of electric boogaloo, mate, and the Turkish heel spinning snap kick, mate, and the Turkish slaps, mate. I'm really into them, mate. Mate, I give the women, mate, the Turkish slaps. They love them, mate.
The Turkish slaps, as you put
mate.
it.
Turkish slap.
Yeah, they were made famous, I think, by Big Brother.
Hot
was
dogs,
it season...
mate. Yeah, no, mate.
Wasn't
Do
hot
not
dogs.
talk over me. Mate, they were made famous from Guido. Mate, I am the best there was, mate, the best there is, and the best there ever will be.
Yeah. It's interesting to say that because that was also the saying of one of the other famous wrestlers in that same era. And I hope I get this right, because if I don't, TJ is going to be writing in furious about it. And his name was, and I can't believe I've forgotten it. If you remember who this is, please write in. Let us know. Thumb us down below as
Mate,
well.
you're trying to think of, mate, Brett, the Hitman Hart, mate.
That's
but
the
you
one.
know what? He copied me. Mate, I was the original. Mate, all these copycats out there, mate, they want to be like me. Do you blame them?
So great.
But, you know what? I'd love to stay in chat, mate, but I've got to go.
Okay.
I've got the women to satisfy, mate. The women, they're bashing the door down. I've got to go, mate. But thank you very much for your time. I'll go get Paul, mate, see what he's up to.
Okay, no worries. Well, thanks, Uncle Guido. It was great to see you again. And
Thank you.
We'll be sure to chat to you in the future about more technology, news reviews, technology, and debates. So we'll
mate.
see you next
Goodbye,
time.
my friend.
Good night, Guido. Good night. All right. So while Guido's going to find Paul, so I'll continue on from what I was saying before. So the CPU for my 4K machine is the most important thing. And at the moment, I'm leaning more towards the Ryzen 3900X. We're looking at probably 32 gigabytes of RAM, looking at the 3600 megahertz DDR4. I don't need the most up-to-date video card. I'm probably going to save a little bit of money on the video card, but I'm still going to get something that's decent, and I figure it's so close to a gaming machine, I might as well get a video card that's got a bit of grunt. So I'm probably looking at something in the 2060, 2070 range. It's tempting to buy the 2080 Super, which is what Paul has, and it's tempting to buy something a little bit faster than Paul, just an inch or so faster than Paul, if you know what I mean. But I think I'm going to go probably the 2060, just to keep the budget down a little bit. And finally, it's all about getting a 4K monitor. So I need some sort of IPS LCD monitor that's got accurate colors, which you need for when it comes to color grading or photography. Unfortunately, they're about 60 hertz, so they're not as ideal for gaming, but they are decent. Oh, by the way, sorry, Paul, you just interrupted me. I'm actually talking about technology while you're away.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I've lost my train of thought. But anyway, yeah, so that's what's going on. Looking at a 4K video editing machine. So where have you been, Paul? What's been happening?
Oh, I just went to get a drink, and I've just restocked up my water on board for delivery.
I was thinking, Paul.
And we're back. I didn't actually get wind of what Guido was talking about, but I'm sure I'll catch it up on the podcast, either on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Overcast, or YouTube.
Absolutely. Okay, so just going to refer back to my notes. So we've covered gimbals. Okay, gimbals. So Paul, you've got a gimbal, and now you've got a double-handed gimbal.
Yes.
So yeah, have you found that to be an improvement over the one-handed gimbal?
Well, I had to obviously, this, my gimbal's bigger than yours, so I had to organise some dual handles to make it easier to hold. And I haven't had a chance to test it yet, but I'm taking it for a spin tomorrow. So on the next podcast, I'll give you an update on what it is. But it feels good. Certainly feels better than what it does in the hands. You can get a good grip either side. So I'm looking forward to giving it a go.
Mm. And well, I've got a gimbal as well. I think you'll find, Paul, mine's maybe slightly bigger than yours.
I think yours is Asian, Tim, isn't it?
It is. I'm pretty sure they're both Asian. Yours is Asian as well, if you know what I mean. And
actually, you're right. It is.
Yeah, and mine came with two handles. Mine came with a double grip out of the box, and it came with a lovely box, by the way. Anyway, so with the gimbal, what I was getting at is, for anyone that's never used a gimbal before, but what you do is you have to balance it. So it's got motors and batteries and all that sort of stuff, but you have to balance it so it's even, and that makes the motors more efficient. So they're not trying to fight gravity. So, but balancing a gimbal has got to be one of the most least desirable things to do in life. If anyone can think of something that's less desirable to do, please comment down below, because I think balancing a gimbal, putting a new lens on a camera and the whole thing's all out of whack and you've got to rebalance it, it's got to be the most frustrating thing to do. Can you think, Paul, of anything more less desirable, things you'd rather do than balance your gimbal?
Well, I'm just thinking, you're saying how hard it is to balance and how it's frustrating, it takes a long time. How long does it take you to balance your gimbal, Tim?
It's funny you asked that, Paul. Funny you asked that. Funny you asked that question, because I actually timed myself tonight. It took me 3 minutes and 26 seconds to rebalance my gimbal. So thank you very much. But that was excruciating. Do it with me, Paul. Excruciating. It was excruciating. 3 minutes and 26 seconds I will never get back. And I was trying to think, what is worse than balancing a gimbal? And
I can tell you one thing, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
For me in particular, because I've got big feet, as you know, hence the big gimbal. And I tell you what, try on shoes, I just can't be bothered. I mean, you got to take your shoe off. Try on shoes is up there with. If I walk past a shop, if I have to try on a pair of shoes, it doesn't matter if my shoes are falling apart. I'm not getting new shoes. I just not into it.
I think this is a guy thing. I'm pretty sure women don't do this. I think this is something only guys do. How many guys out there, you go into Kmart, Target, wherever you go, and you see a pair of pants, trousers for those in the UK, but let's face it, we've got no viewers in the UK according to our statistics. But you go into one of those stores and you go to try the pants on, and you're like, I don't want to go. I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered going to a change room, taking my shoes off, taking my wallet and my phone and my sunglasses out, car keys and shoes off, and then taking the pants off. I just can't be bothered. So you kind of just eyeball it. And how many times have you just bought the wrong size? You know, we just like it probably takes about 5 minutes max. And we spend 5 minutes a day. We waste more than 5 minutes a day on the internet, relaxing, if you know what I mean. So, we've got that 5 minutes in our day, but balancing a gimbal is worse than trying on pants, I reckon. You just don't want to, it's just something you just don't want to do.
What about, something I also don't like doing is talking to a hairdresser. Stop talking to me. Just cut my hair. They ask the most ridiculous questions, and like you don't want to tell them the answers because then they ask more questions. You just want to make it, if they say, "What do you do for a living?" and I'm a dog trainer. Oh right, yeah, my uncle has a dog and it doesn't stop jumping up. Can you give me some tips? It's just, do you ever find that people ask you, my friend who's a mechanic, and he told me when he goes to parties and people say, "What do you do?" he says, "I cut grass." Because no one cares about it. People move on.
I'll tell you
but
another
if he goes,
one.
I'm a mechanic. They're going to be like, "Oh, look, I've got this rattling in my car."
I've been using the same line at those parties for 20 years, Paul, and it's worked. And I'm not even lying. I just say I work in IT. It does the same thing. They go, "Oh, yeah, computers, yeah." And
you've explained to me plenty of times what you do, and I'm sure it's much the same as what Phil does, because I don't know what Phil does, but he does it. But I still don't know what you do, even after you explain it to me. So I do understand. But what do you reckon Phil's doing right now?
Phil is probably researching computers, I'd say, unlike us.
He's like that. That guy in The Chaser, that dude in The Chaser that has all the answers to everything. He's just the almighty. That's what Phil is to me.
It was funny because the guy in The Chaser, Andrew Hansen, I actually thought he might have been the puppet at one stage. My original guess is on The Masked Singer was based on the voice. No clues. I listened to the voice and I thought that's the Red Wiggle, and then Simon, and then the judges said maybe Andrew Hansen. I'm like, oh, because it talked about law or something, and I'm like, oh yeah, because the Chasers were into law, but yeah, it turned out to be Simon from the Wiggles. So. Simon Says, and that reminds me of being a kid. And another thing I remember being a kid was the wooden spoon. Do you remember the wooden spoon? Like it's gone. It's gone with the dodo, but it used to be a thing back in the day.
Well, the wooden spoon now, if Mum opens the third drawer, get the wooden spoon out, it means we're having pasta. But it meant something a little bit different growing up, didn't it, Tim?
Absolutely, and the third drawer that's important to note, because what I would do as a kid is I would pre-hide the wooden spoon. So I would go in the third drawer, I would find the wooden spoon, I would either bury it or hide it in a cupboard somewhere, and then when you inevitably get in trouble, which believe it or not, even though we might look like angels, we did get in trouble as kids, your mum would go to the third drawer and it wouldn't be there. And you know what, Paul? So have a guess what her reaction was when she wanted to punish us. This is back in the day when it was allowed, of course. Not, you can't do it now. She wanted to punish us with the wooden spoon, and she couldn't find it because I'd buried it. How many octaves do you reckon she was? What kind of reaction do you think she had? She was fuming.
Was she fuming? I would have thought she just grabbed the egg flip or something and just, call your bluff.
She would tell me, she would go, "Where's the wooden spoon?" It was like Batman. It was like, "Where is he?" It was like, "Where's the wooden spoon?" And I'll be like, "I'm not going to tell you. You want me to tell you where the wooden spoon is?" She would be fuming, Paul. Fuming. Yeah. So, top tip for those kids. Owen, Park, if you're watching, Abby, well, we don't do that these days anyway. You can't do it. So we have to just give them a hug and say, what you did was wrong. That's how we do it.
And do you remember ever asking for a belting?
I don't remember ever asking for one.
No, because I don't actually remember either. But after Dad would hit you, he'd say, "You asked for that." Yeah. And I'm like, don't think I did.
Sounds like a Carl Barron joke, that one.
That is a Carl Barron joke. That's actually a Carl Barron joke.
Yeah.
Or was it Jamoan?
Jim Owen's
I
got a
think it's
new.
Carl Barron.
Jim Owen has got a new comedy
Yeah.
special coming out.
A
And
what?
comedy special. And not only that, but Michael McIntyre has a
Yeah.
comedy special on Netflix. Just only aired, dropped. It
Netflix.
dropped on the 15th, which is a couple of days ago, I think. So we actually went and saw Michael McIntyre live. That was he was great.
Look, Michael McIntyre was good, Tim, but I'm pissed. Let me tell you why. Netflix. It would probably cheaper for us to go and see Michael McIntyre live than it will be next month to watch it on Netflix, because Netflix have just announced they are upping their prices. What are they doing? You've got Stan, you've got Binge, you've got 10 Play, 7 Plus, 9 Now, Prime Video. Prime is $6.99 and it includes free delivery on most of their online products. What are you doing, Netflix? They're raising their prices. People don't want to pay for it as it is. And with the amount of competition out there with Disney Plus and all these different streaming services, you'd be silly to up your prices. I, for one, probably going to keep it, to be honest, because there's good stuff on there.
Absolutely.
But the fact they're putting their prices up makes me fuming. I am just outraged. I'm just that frustrated. Like, what are their outgoings, Tim? What are their outgoings? It's a streaming service. I pay for the internet that gets it, streams it. Number one, they're not paying for that. So what are they paying for? I'm paying them, plus I'm paying my internet. So they're basically just upping their prices with completely unfounded, and they should be ashamed of themselves, Netflix. But as I said, I'm going to keep it anyway because that's what I mean. It's got some good shows on there, but it's just the fact that they think they can just take us for a ride, which they can. But it just frustrates me. Pull your head in, Netflix. However, we are taking sponsorship for these episodes, so if Netflix is out there and they want to sponsor an episode, onboardfordelivery@gmail.com. But mainly, not tech-related, but I'm going to spend a bit of time with my kids, and it's my son's birthday tomorrow, so I spend a bit of time with him and looking forward to that, so I can't wait to give him his presents and see the look on his face. As you do, that's one of the most exciting things about presents. It's not even about the present, it's just about the look on their face. He went to bed tonight, and he was so nervous that you know how sometimes kids don't know how to, they don't know how to express their feelings. They just know how they feel a certain way. And he's turning 8, and he was so excited about tomorrow morning. And he went to bed, and he goes, Dad, I'm so scared. And I said, scared of what? And he goes, I'm scared of aging. Like, your body just feels different now that I'm turning 8. And I said, mate, you're just excited. You're just excited about the presents and the day that's happening, and his look on his face when he went to sleep, that peaceful sleep, knowing he's going to wake up on his birthday, was great. So, yeah, technology based, I'm going to do a bit of stuff with them, with the camera, and have a bit of fun. So, looking forward to it. Thank you for coming on the journey of Onboard for Delivery, and until next time, good night.
That's a wrap.
We just had to finish there. That was a disaster.